All right, Webster, this is a developer console. And what we're going to do is, before we try to count to 1 billion, let's try to count to 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, so let's make a computer do that. So one way, so I'm in a developer console, and I can do this thing called a console log, and I can do that, and it says 1. And so if I do console log 2, 2, so it's counting. So the way that we can make something count, there's a few ways, but it's called a loop. And one of those loops is a for loop. You remember Albie? So Albie had that loop. You remember the loop?
Yeah.
The repeat? So now if we want to repeat, we could say for. Actually, the first thing you need to learn is a variable. So a variable, we could say let, and what do you, we can say count. That's how you spell count. C-O-U-N-T. Look, let me make this bigger screen. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. So let count equal 1. And now I can say console log count 1. So now what I can do is I can say for count equals 1, count is less than or equal to 10, count plus plus, and then I can say console.log, and I can say count. So there it is. It counted to 10. That was fast. There's probably a way we could actually make it say the number too. So now we just wrote a program that can count to 10.
But can we say the program?
That might be difficult. Let's first try getting it to count. Let's try to make it count to higher numbers first. So what I can do here, I press up for my program. I can change this from 10 to 100. So I add a 0. Now it's 100. And now it just counted to 100. I can scroll through here. If I wanted to, I could add a sleep. I think there's a sleep. No, this language doesn't have a sleep.
How did it count to 100 so fast?
Because, so the speed that it can count depends on the speed of the processor. So a computer has a processor, and this has a fast processor. If we got a really old computer, it would have a slower processor, and it would count slower.
Hold on. Let's count this one.
Well, let's keep going up. So that was 100. Let's change it to 1,000. Let's add a 0. Oh, it took a little bit longer. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So it counted to 1,000. It took about 1 second.
So now it's let it count to 1 to 10,000.
That's right, 10,000. Let's add another 0. Boom. That took about 3 or 4 seconds.
10.
So our computer, this is like our robot. Our robot could count to 10,000, and it took it about 3 seconds.
But how about one bigger than 10,000?
You know, I could also, just so you know, I can put a timer in here, and I could actually time how long it takes.
Can I do it really slow?
I can also run this outside of a developer console. You want to do it slow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look, I don't know if JavaScript, I don't think JavaScript has a sleep. JavaScript, sleep, I don't think it has a sleep.
Can you do it slow?
I'm just going to make a bunch of triangles for us. I'm making different sizes too.
So they have a sleep function that they've implemented here.
Look, keep cutting. That's your job. Put them in here and just keep cutting down.
Hey, can you just do it like slow mode?
You want it to count slowly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to use this sleep function.
Not a rush. We take our time.
So let's get out of the console and let's switch over to a
You got it. Keep cutting. You're almost there. You're doing a great job.
create a new file. So I'm going to copy what we have from the console. over.
Come on, can we say it too?
You wanted to say it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit harder to say it.
I don't need to
We'll
say it.
figure that out.
Can you count to 10,000?
Well, do you want it to count to 10,000 slowly?
Mm-hmm.
First, let's just verify that we can get this thing. Let's save it in the desktop, and let's call it. What do you want to call our robot?
I don't know.
Counter?
Yeah.
Counterbot? And we have to add a .js because this is JavaScript. So we've got the counterbot, and then now I can go to the terminal and go to the desktop, and I can say, I think I have Node installed, so I can say Node counterbot. Look at that, it worked. So it counted very fast to 10,000, and I didn't have to use the browser. But now you said you wanted it to like count slower, so I'm going to make it count more slowly. So I'm going to copy this code, and let's add it in. So they've created a sleep function, and they've got this function called demo, and we can just call ours count, and we can make it sleep for 100 milliseconds, and then we can say we can put our thing in here, our for loop. They have a for loop. We're going to say, we'll give it a let. So let count 1, and we can maybe make it more readable. And before we can say await sleep. Oops. And we're going to call it 100 milliseconds. So now it should count more slowly if this works, and then I'm going to call this function called count. So now our robot is going to count. Actually, let's go ahead and, yeah. So
I want it to say it count. You know, like it to say it.
you want it, I understand. That's a little bit harder to do. And so when you write a program, you want to start off as simple as possible. So you want it to be slow right now. So let's try to, that's our next goal, is to make it slower.
But I want it to count but say it.
Watch this. It's counting to 10,000. How long would it take to count to 10,000? So are you sure you want to count to 1 billion? That'll take a long time.
How long does it take to count to 10,000?
I can time it. Let's time it, and let's remove our sleep. So I'm going to Control C to kill that run. So our program just was running, and I just had to I stopped it from running. So let's take away our sleep. So I'm going to comment out the sleep and the sleep. So now it's fast, and we're going to add a timer. We're going to say now equals new date, and at the end we're going to say console dot. We're going to say we need to. Let's answer. We're trying to answer Mama's question. Okay, just hang in there with me. So we're going to say const then equals new date, and then we want to say console.log. Yeah, I don't think he likes your task. Let's change it to later. Let's see what happens if you just do later minus now. I don't know if that's going to work.
You did a good job. You want to cut another one? Here's a smaller one you can cut. Cut this off. Cut this triangle off. Cut down that line, okay?
So that was 138 milliseconds, I think. Console log milliseconds. So it took.
I want it to count slower. Like start with 1 and then 2.
Well, how about let's try to make it count to 10,000 to 1 billion.
So yeah.
And let's look and see how long it's taking to get there. Well, so we're at 10,000. Let's try to make it a 100,000. We'll add a 0. Let's try again. So it took 852 milliseconds to count. So there's like a delay, I think, because it takes time to render this. But so what's after 100,000? If you add a 0, that's 1 million.
But how about add another 0?
Well, let's keep doing them one at a time. So 100 million, or 1 million took 729 milliseconds. And 10 million.
Okay, once you're done with that one, we're
Wow, that's taking longer.
gonna watch our video. She said that we needed to go back.
Look at it. It's still running. Maybe I didn't save on the one before. I would expect it to have taken longer. Yeah, I think I didn't save on the one before. It's still counting. Look at it.
Oh.
It's at 3 million. And 4 million. There's no sleep. This is how long it's taking.
That's okay.
We gotta keep waiting. 5 million. So we're halfway there. We're halfway to 10 million. I wonder if I can increase the size of this. Uh-oh. I hit the button. Uh-oh. I messed up. I tried doing Control Plus. Something happened. Let's go to our process. Now let's do manager. There's a monitor. Activity monitor. Yeah, I did something, and terminal's not responding. I'm going to try to, yeah. So sometimes when you write programs, you end up messing up. I hit the wrong button. So I'm trying to stop and quit.
Okay, here's yours. You hold it like, which one did you cut? That one's the one you cut. So you hold it like that. Mama's gonna do this one. Alright, so.
Stop. Force quit. There it goes. So let's open up another terminal and try again.
So you hold this one.
All right.
Hold that.
So that took a long time. Let's see. And so let's go back. Let's take away a 0. Let's go back to 1 million. And let's make sure we save. So this 1 million should take longer than. So let's try to run it again. There we go. So 1 million should take, what, 15 seconds or so? So 1 million took 9.7 seconds. And so what that means is it probably will take 97 seconds to count to 10 million.
10 million.
Yeah, so let's go to 10 million, and I save. And so we multiplied times 10, so we went from 1 million to 10 million. We're counting to 10 million. And now I expect the result to be about 10 times longer. So instead of 9.7 seconds, it should now be 97 seconds. So let's do it. It should take 97 seconds. So that's about 1.5 minutes. And so you can do some math. If you wanted to count to 1 billion, That means you would have to multiply times 10 two more times. So 10 million times 10, add another 0, is 100 million. 100 million times 10, add another 0, is 1 billion. So I would guess that it would take about 9.7 thousand seconds to count for my computer to count to 1 billion.
Okay, let's count to 1 billion.
Well, we can. Let's see. I think I'll quit the video because it's going to take some time. I'm going to estimate how long it takes for my computer to count to 1 billion. So 9,700 seconds to hours. So it'll take a little under 3 hours for this computer to count to 1 billion. Now, if you make it actually say the word, it's going to take longer because it takes a long time to actually say the number. You had said you wanted it to actually make a noise. It's going to take a long time to count to 1 billion. So when it's not even saying the number, it's going to take 3 hours to count to 1 billion.
Now I need to say the number.
So you want a robot that counts to 1 billion, and you want it to say the number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That sounds fun. I think you're going to have a robot that just sits there and counts. Is it going to keep you up at night?
No.
No? What if it's counting and you can't sleep? Do we want it to stop counting while you sleep, or do you want it to count while you're sleeping?
I think you could count while I'm sleeping.
So you want the robot to count. How do you know if it didn't, break a rule? Do you think it maybe skipped ahead while you're sleeping? Or do you think it'll count and you can trust it to count while you're sleeping?
I'll trust it to count while I'm sleeping.
Yeah, because if we program it, it usually does what we program it to do. Actually, I think it always does what we program it to do, unless we had a mistake. Look at that. So that was 152 seconds. So our number was off. So we probably could do like 152 seconds times 100. So 152 times 100. Yeah. So my math was wrong, I think. So 10 times 10 is 100 times 10 is a billion. So yeah, I'm thinking closer to that was over 4 hours to actually count to a billion. So my math was wrong. Also, when you're using a computer, it can, everything you do is using the processor. And so if you're making your computer do a lot of other things, it can have an impact on how fast it can count. But yeah, it sounds like fun. How do we create a robot that will count to 1 billion? So, yeah, that sounds like a fun project. We just need a little computer that has a speaker that we leave running for a long time. That'll cost some money. 152 seconds to count to 10 billion. So 1,000.
Hey, but how about you
1.5
add another?
thousand.
But how about if you add a 1? How about if you add a 1?
If I add another 0 or just add 1?
Just add 1.
Where do you want to add 1?
You could add 1 on the other side there.
Just a 1? You want me to replace the 0 with a 1, or do you want me to add a 1?
For add a 1.
Well, so if you add a 1, that's like adding a 0 and then adding 1 to that. So it'll be about the same as a 0, and a 1 will be very similar. There'll almost be no difference because the computer's so fast. But yeah, this is close to 100 million, and so I would expect this to take
100 billion seconds.
1,500 seconds. So it would probably take about 40 minutes. No, not 40 minutes. It'll take Look at that. Under 30 minutes to count to 100 million.
How about
Alright.
add another one next to the one?
Another one? That gets really close to one, but you're over 1 billion at that point.
Okay, let's see Mama's
So
snowflake.
these are big numbers. You haven't learned how to do these big numbers yet.
Mama's snowflake.
So you want a robot that counts to 1 billion. And I think it will actually take it a long time if it's actually saying the number.
Can I try once more?
All right, that's it.
Oh, yeah, I'll say
That's our counter bot. I don't know if we want it to count, but we can work on it later, okay?